Good Wednesday morning. Americans waking up to a political shockwave overnight.
A return to power for Donald Trump, elected the 47th president of the United States. Good morning. It's November 6th. This is Today. Red wave.
Frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time.
Former President Trump, now the president-elect again, dominating the swing states to seal a historic return to the White House.
Thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have.
Trump's path to victory driven by issues like the economy, a surge in support from Hispanic voters, and a gender gap led by young men.
This is my first time voting at all.
Republicans also scoring major upsets to seize control of the U.S. Senate.
This is a new dawn of Republican leadership.
This morning, we're going to break it all down. What went right for Trump and the Republican Party? What went wrong for Harris and the Democrats? And what it means for America's future today, Wednesday, November 6th, 2024.
From NBC News, this is a special edition of Today, Decision 2024, with Savannah Guthrie and Hoda Kotb, live from Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. It's Wednesday morning, 7 a.m. out here on the East Coast. We're glad you're with us. This is a special edition of Today on the morning after the election. Good morning, Hoda.
Good morning to you, honey. A lot of people bleary-eyed. They were up late watching the return. Some people were up late working the returns. But the results are really clear and decisive,
yes,
right?
The results are in. Donald Trump set to make a historic return to the White House. The former president, now the president-elect. NBC News projecting he has eclipsed the 270 Electoral College votes needed. And here's the path to victory. Trump has busted through the blue wall, winning both Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. He also carried the South, including those key swing states of Georgia and North Carolina.
President-elect Trump claimed victory during a speech at his watch party in Florida, saying voters have given him a, quote, powerful mandate for his agenda over the next 4 years.
Also this morning, we are closely watching the battle for Congress. We can tell you Republicans have seized control of the Senate. They flipped several seats. The House is at this point still up for grabs and may not be known the outcome there for several weeks. We're covering it all. Let's get started. NBC's Garrett Haake, who covers the Trump campaign. Sun's coming up. Garrett, good morning to you.
Savannah, good morning to you. And yes, Donald Trump's victory in this campaign as stunning as it was complete, knocking Joe Biden out of the race over the summer, then overnight defeating Kamala Harris by winning at least 2 out of the 3 so-called Democratic blue wall states. Now, the first president to be reelected to non-consecutive terms in more than 100 years is coming back to Washington with what he calls a powerful mandate from the American people.
Look what happened. Is this crazy?
Overnight, a stunning victory for Donald Trump, with NBC News projecting the 45th president is now set to serve again as the nation's 47th.
This will truly be the golden age of America.
The former president flipping back critical battlegrounds he lost in 2020, celebrating his victory with supporters in the early morning hours.
This will forever be remembered as the day the American people regained control of their country.
Trump trading in his often fiery rhetoric, instead calling for unity.
It's time to put the divisions of the past 4 years behind us. It's time to unite, and we're going to try.
Though notably not mentioning President Biden or Vice President Harris or their supporters in his remarks. Instead, focusing on his next term with a Republican-controlled Senate.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate.
On stage with his family, Trump also touting several high-profile allies, including Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who he said will have a role in his next administration, and spending several minutes praising billionaire Elon Musk, who spent tens of millions of dollars supporting Trump's campaign.
We have a new star. A star is born, Elon.
Running mate J.D. Vance also taking the stage.
We just witnessed the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States of America.
The former president winning with a coalition driven by white voters, men, and first-time voters, a group he lost in 2020 but won this year.
They came from all corners, union, non-union, African American, Hispanic American, Asian American, Arab American, Muslim American. We had everybody, and it was beautiful.
During the campaign, Trump had focused heavily on immigration, painting the immigration debate in dark terms.
Black voters are furious with Kamala over illegal immigration. It's destroying their communities.
His support with black and Latino voters higher in key swing states. Latino men in particular flocking to Trump, favoring him by a 10-point margin after backing Joe Biden by 23 points 4 years ago. The economy also a major focus, tying Harris to incumbent President Biden, also seeming to pay off with voters in the all-important Midwest states, as Trump reflects on his last campaign.
His campaign has been so historic in so many ways.
And looks ahead to leading a divided country.
We're going to help our country heal.
At 78, Trump is now also the oldest person to ever be elected president and the first convicted felon. He does still face additional criminal charges, many of which are likely to be dropped by a Justice Department he will control. Now begins the work of a transition and selecting cabinet officials, a process that could be aided greatly by the Republican Senate that'll be joining Donald Trump in Washington next year. Savannah.
All right, Garrett Haake, thank you very much.
The co-chair of the Harris campaign spoke to her supporters overnight, saying the vice president will address the nation today. NBC's chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander joins us live now. Hey, Peter, morning.
Hi, Hoda. Good morning to you. We're outside the Naval Observatory, the vice president's residence. What only in a matter of months will become home to J.D. Vance and his family. Last night at Howard University, Kamala Harris's alma mater, it started as sort of a joyful, optimistic scene, but as the results came in, as polls closed around the country, the scene there really dramatically changed quickly. A much more somber scene, glum looks, blank faces staring at the giant screen there. Ultimately, they turned off the audio on the massive monitor and turned music on to try to buoy the spirits of those in attendance. We do expect to hear, as you noted, from Vice President Harris at some point later today, speaking at Howard University, we were told, both to her supporters and to address the nation as well. There was a party elsewhere in town for her donors. The situation there was described as a funeral. The bottom line for Kamala Harris's team is that they were unable to sort of have the numbers they needed in key demographics, underperforming particularly in some of those critical counties in crucial battleground states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, certainly among them this morning. And Harris faced some major headwinds, her allies say, coming into this. She was hampered by people's views of the Biden administration, particularly on the topic of the economy. Her effort to sort of cast Donald Trump as a divisive figure, to put abortion rights front and center, obviously was outweighed by Americans' real concerns about the economy. 2/3 of Americans saying that they believe right now that they're dissatisfied or angry about the state of this economy. We expect to hear from her later, but I'll tell you what we are hearing from her allies this morning is that they don't put this on the shoulders of Kamala Harris. They feel like she competed everywhere, went to places even Hillary Clinton missed in 2016. Nonetheless, it wasn't enough to win it back again for the Democrats. Back to you guys.
All right, Peter, thank you so much. So let's get right to the big board, crunch these numbers. NBC national political correspondent Steve Kornacki, up all night but looking fresh as a daisy. So let's look at that. For all of the talk about the polling ties, in the end, this is a pretty decisive victory for Donald Trump. Take us inside it.
Yeah, a couple ways to look at it, Savannah. You see some of these battlegrounds still, Michigan, Nevada, Arizona, not called. Trump is ahead in all three of those. There's a very good chance Trump is going to go 7 for 7 in the core battleground states. But the victory he's put up here goes beyond those battleground states. These are the electoral votes. Let's flip it over and show you what the popular vote looks like right now. And you can see Trump right now with an outright majority of the popular vote, an advantage of more than 5 million votes nationally over Kamala Harris. And where that comes from is some states we don't talk about much, but big states like New York. Now, Kamala Harris is going to win here by about 11 points, but just check out what this is in terms of a difference from 2020. That's cut in half from Joe Biden's margin. If you looked inside New York City here, especially the working class areas, the outer boroughs of New York City.
The Bronx.
There you go. Some major gains for Trump there that that have really kind of been unthinkable for Republicans for a long time. You see it, too, these kinds of gains in a state like New Jersey. You see it in a state like Maryland. They're still blue, but they're a lot less blue. You see it in a state like Illinois. Look at this one, 51-47. We're over 90% of the vote. And Harris is going to win. She's not winning like Joe Biden did just 4 years ago. 17 points right there. So you start getting those gains for Donald Trump in those big blue states. I mean, that adds up to millions of votes. That's why he has this popular vote advantage. That's why I think there's a very good chance he's going to end up winning the popular vote for the first time. And it would be the first time in 20 years since George W. Bush, 2004, that a Republican has won the national popular vote.
All right, Steve, we have lots to unpack here. We'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much. Hoda, over to you.
All right, as we mentioned, the other big battle of the night is control of Congress. NBC News is projecting Republicans have taken back the Senate, though some of the tight races will determine the margin, and the future of the House still up in the air. NBC's Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles is here with that part of the story. So the Senate is a lock.
Yeah, the Senate, and this is not a surprise at all, Hoda. We knew that the Republicans were in the driver's seat here, and as we take a look at the map, it looks pretty clear that they are going to pick up at least 2 seats, and they have the potential to pick up maybe 3, even 4 more seats before all the vote counting is done. Let's take a look at where they got their biggest wins. West Virginia being the first state. We were able to call that almost immediately after the polls closed. They also picked up a win in Ohio. That was a race that Democrats had some hope that Sherrod Brown, the incumbent there, would have a shot at beating Bernie Moreno. It didn't work out that way. And then the state that we're watching really closely right now is Montana. Tim Sheehy, this is still too early to call. The Navy SEAL, though, leading the incumbent John Tester there. Right now, Hoda, the question is not if the Republicans have the majority. We know they have it. It's just how big that margin is going to be.
So Republicans won the presidency. They won the Senate. So now it's about the House. And you say we won't know these numbers for quite a while.
It could be maybe a month.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on which one of these states or which one of these districts it takes to count. Right now, 54 seats are still not called. The Republicans have the advantage right now, a 3-seat net gain. They, of course, control the majority right now, but so many of these races are tight. And this could shift back and forth as the vote counting process plays itself out. One of the reasons it could take so long, Hoda, is that many of these districts, every state has different rules for how they count the votes, when the votes come in, and how that process plays itself out. So, yeah, we're going to have to be patient before we know who won the House.
All right, Ryan, thanks.
Okay, let's joining us now, Jason Miller, senior advisor to the Trump campaign. Jason, good morning to you.
Good morning.
So, about last night, tell us about former President Trump, now President-elect Trump, his reaction behind closed doors. You were with him in 2016. It's been a long road.
Yeah, so President Trump was in very good spirits last night, obviously, after winning not just the presidency, but in a manner that was such an overwhelming landslide, winning the popular vote. He's on track to get 312 electoral votes. And for those scoring at home, that's even bigger than what he was able to do in 2016. And Savannah, let me explain why that's such a big deal, because we have such serious problems in front of us with our economy and with the border, and Americans want it fixed now. I think a major reason why President Trump won is because he made it clear how he's going to improve the lives of every American, and the fact that he can do it right away. He doesn't need 1 or 2 or 3 years to figure out where things are, how things in Washington work. He's done it before. We have that great economy. We have that secure border. He can do it right away.
So he talked about having a mandate, which is political speak for saying, I have such a decisive win that I'm going to go in there and I know the American people, or at least half of them, are right behind me for what I want to do. So what does happen on day one? I mean, he talked about mass deportations, for example. He's talked about just again last night saying, okay, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., you know, you have our health care apparatus. Do what you want. Is that the kind of thing that we're going to see right away? Those tariffs, for example?
Yeah, so one of the things that a lot of folks know is that with executive orders and things you can do with the presidency, some things you can put back in place. So think about it for a moment. All of the secure border policies that we had in place with President Trump, he can simply flip the switch and put those back into place just like they were before. They didn't need an act of Congress to break the border in the first place. When we think about energy exploration, how we get back to drilling, which ultimately then will bring down prices, bring down inflation, he can do that on his own. Other things, of course, will take legislative action and things of that nature. But right away, President Trump can put so many things into place. And again, that is why people are so optimistic and so upbeat about what their personal finances with their personal safety can look like. He's done it once before. He'll do it again.
You know, we look at these results and they are decisive for the Trump campaign, but you also look at a country that's deeply divided. I mean, it's a 50-50 country right now. The former President-elect Trump, talked about healing and turning that page. What do you think that looks like for him?
Well, number one, you take a look at what that coalition was that delivered President Trump the win. I thought a stunning statistic, and this actually came from the NBC News exit surveys, was the fact that President Trump earned the votes of 1 out of every 3 voter of color in the United States. Think about this. This isn't the Republican Party of old. President Trump has completely remade the Republican Party to be the party of the working class. You think about the Teamsters, the union workers, the folks who want to keep the auto industry, but you think about black voters, Latino voters. Think about the Arab American voters in Michigan who rallied around President Trump. His win is already starting to show how he could bring that together. President Trump also last night name-checked a number of Democrats and supporters who aren't traditionally a part of politics and definitely not Republican politics who can help him in that effort. This will be a big, broad coalition that he puts together. We have 2 transition co-chairs in Howard Lutnick and Linda McMahon who have already started to assemble some of those. And I know President Trump, as we saw from that first term, he has a way of being able to put people in place that are going to be successful and who can deliver. Hope is back in America.
All right, Trump campaign advisor Jason Miller, thanks for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
7:16. Should we take a break from politics?
Oh, could we please?
We got to check
Look
the
at this
weather.
breath of fresh air.
Hey guys, good to see you. Good morning. Good morning to you. It's a dry morning, and we have been having so little precipitation. 11 million people at risk for elevated fire risk in parts of Vermont and on into New England. Red flag warnings. Any new fires, if they start, they are going to spread rapidly. And we've got a tale of 2 countries as far as temperatures are concerned. Eastern half the country where the ridge is up 10 to 25 degrees above average. You go out west, it's 10 to 20 degrees below average. In fact, Denver, 33 degrees for a high today, 63 in Vegas. That's 10 degrees cooler, but Indianapolis, Concord, Richmond, down to New Orleans, we're talking temperatures 5 to 12 degrees above average. Could be a record today for Bangor, Manchester, Rochester, New York, Charleston. Look for Nashville to set a record at 81 degrees today. And then temperatures start to cool off as you get to the north. By Saturday, 53 in Boston, 62 in Cleveland. Nashville, though, stays nice and mild with a temperature of about 75 degrees. Rest of the country, we are looking at heavy snow developing in the Rockies out west. Gorgeous day. Plenty of sunshine up and down the west coast. We're looking for flooding likely, though, ahead of all that moisture that's going to come from tropical, so I should say now, Hurricane Raphael. We're going to be watching that. Record highs in the mid-Atlantic into the northeast. We're going to get to your local forecast in the next 30 seconds.